Today we are going deep.
Deep dives are the best.
They are. And today we're tackling something I think a lot of people can relate to. Relationship crises.
Yeah.
Not just like, your average little tiff, but those moments where the whole relationship feels like it's teetering on the edge.
Right, like, is this even going to work?
Exactly. And to help us unpack all of this, we've got some amazing insights from, well, two perspectives. We've got Alex, who's a relationship counselor.
Lots of experience there.
Yeah. And then Riley, who's actually been through a pretty major relationship crisis themselves.
Always good to hear from someone who's been there.
For sure. So
Yeah.
let's jump right in. What really stood out to me was, we think of these big blowouts, but a lot of times it's not like that.
No, it can be really subtle.
Yeah, it's this kind of like underlying tension, a slow burn.
Like a creeping dread almost.
Totally. And I think Alex defined it really well as any period of like stress or conflict that threatens the stability of the relationship.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes it, pretty clear. And that threat, that can come in so many different forms.
Oh, absolutely.
Infidelity, money problems, just not communicating well.
Or even just like realizing you're on totally different pages about like life goals.
Right. And Riley described it as like their world was crashing down.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like so powerful. It's more than just a little disagreement.
It's a huge shift in your reality. Everything feels uncertain.
Totally. So we've got this sense of the ground being pulled out from under us. What are some of the things then that actually contribute to these crises? Like what leads to this instability?
Well, communication, or I guess the lack of it.
That seems to be a big one.
Huge. Alex really emphasized that when couples just like stop talking openly and honestly.
And that's when, resentment starts to build.
Oh, for sure.
And Riley actually talked about how they and their partner, they fell into that trap, avoiding tough conversations.
Makes sense, those are hard.
But obviously, like, not talking just makes it worse.
Way worse. Alex actually said unspoken resentment is like a poison, just eating away at the relationship.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that came up a lot was intimacy, or rather the lack of it.
Right, and not just physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy too.
Can you unpack that a little? What does a lack of intimacy really look like?
So emotional intimacy, it's about feeling deeply connected, like your partner truly sees you, gets you, and when that fades, you start to feel more like roommates than, a couple.
Yeah, like you're living separate lives, even though you're under the same roof.
Exactly, and it can happen so gradually, you don't even realize it at first. Riley mentioned falling into a routine, which, let's be honest, happens to a lot of us. Life gets busy, and suddenly you're not putting in the effort to connect on that deeper level.
And it's so easy to let that slide.
It really is, but here's the thing. It doesn't have to be the end.
Right. And I think Riley's story is such a good example of that because, things were pretty rough for them.
Oh, yeah, they were at a breaking point.
But they were able to, work through it and come out stronger on the other side.
Which is so encouraging.
It really is. So let's talk about that. What can people actually do when they find themselves in this really tough spot?
Well, the first thing Alex really emphasized is that being proactive is key. Like, don't just wait for things to magically get better.
Yeah, you've got to put in the work.
Exactly. And the biggest thing, seek professional help. A therapist can be so valuable in these situations.
That makes sense. But, Riley actually talked about how they were hesitant to go to therapy at first.
Yeah, it's understandable. A lot of people feel that way.
But ultimately, Riley said it was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, therapy can be a game changer because it gives you this safe, neutral space to really unpack all the complex emotions and just learn healthier ways to communicate.
Like Riley specifically talked about how they learned to use I statements.
Oh, yeah. Instead of blaming their partner, they could express their feelings without, triggering defensiveness.
Which I think is so important because it's so easy to just get into that blame game.
It really is. And statements are something you can start practicing today, even outside of therapy.
Totally. And along with therapy, Alex mentioned a few other strategies, like making time for quality time, actually scheduling it in.
Because it's so easy to let that slip away, right?
Totally. And just expressing appreciation for your partner, those little acts of kindness, just showing that you care.
It's about rebuilding that connection, you know?
And I know this part might be a little tougher to hear, but Riley also spoke about how important forgiveness is.
And they're so right. I think a lot of people think forgiveness means, forgetting what happened or saying it was okay.
Right, or just letting your partner off the hook.
Yeah. But Alex explained it really well. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, it's about letting go of the resentment that's holding you back from moving forward.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It's about choosing to heal and grow, both individually and as a couple.
Right. Because ultimately, as Riley pointed out, we're all human. We make mistakes.
Even in the best relationships,
Exactly. And those mistakes don't have to be the end of the story.
they don't. Relationships can be repaired, but it takes effort from both sides.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling the weight of a relationship crisis right now,
You are not alone.
so not alone. And just remember, it can get better.
It really can. With the right support, the right tools, you can navigate this.
Absolutely. Relationships are messy, they're complicated.
They are, but they can also be incredibly resilient.
So, so true. I want to leave you with a question to think about. Whether you're in a crisis or not, what's one small thing, maybe an act of communication or kindness, that you can offer your partner today to strengthen that bond? Because ultimately, it's those small things that make a huge difference over time.
They really do. It's about showing up every day.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.